by Hilton, opening in Bristol this September.
Fancy having a baby without having sex, as you might have seen in one of the newspapers yesterday. That is the reality. Some women, dozens of actually young women, using £5,000 fertility treatment to bypass the need of a man so they can save themselves for what they term a special relationship. 25 women have given birth in the past 5 years, despite all being virgins. Religious groups say it undermines the importance of bringing up children in a stable marriage. A leading psychotherapist says having a mother who'd never been in a relationship could harm a child's development. It just seems odd to me. Let's speak to a couple of people to give us some pointers for our conversation about this. Laura Vitchins is the Chief Executive of the National Gamete Donation Trust and joins me now. Could I ask you, first off, Laura Vitchins, to explain what a gamete... I think I know, but what a gamete is. Good morning.
Good morning. A gamete is the medical term for egg and sperm.
How does this story strike you?
When they rang me, I was surprised because in this field, humankind never fails to amaze me. But this was a new one. But at the same time, I just say, listen, can't be that many. And I think we need to keep in mind that 25 in 5 years, so an average of 5 per year. And in the UK, 700,000 babies are born every year. So let's be real about this. We're not talking about an epidemic.
But a problem is a problem.
Well, yeah, but I've listened to the debates as well, and I've read the comments, and just because it's front-page news doesn't mean that it's actually really that something people need to worry about. If you look at, as I said, the 700,000 per year, about 45% of them are born outside marriage or civil partnership. So to suggest that these 5, or even if they're 10, or even if they're 150, that they are a threat to society, you know what? That debate is long gone. Society is changing, and what you feel with a debate like this is that what people are worried about is modern technology, people making their own choices. Society is not the same as it was 30, 40 years ago, and that's the reality of it, but it's not something we should really worry about. It's not going to be a trend. Well,
hold on the line, if you would, for a moment. Listening to that is Josephine Quintavalle, who's Director of Comment on Reproductive Ethics, CORE, joins me now. It's not something we need to worry about because out of 700,000 births, it's a very small number. How do you respond to that?
I think if something's not desirable and not right, it's not a question of a little bit will be okay, and we don't need to worry about it. I mean, this is an enormous attack on the role of fatherhood, on the role of the male, and also, one has to feel sorry for women who get so desperate to consider doing these things. But I don't think also in the interest of a child. A child is not an object.
Let's bring Laura Vitchins into that. A child is not an object, and it doesn't matter if it's only one over the last 5 years. It's wrong, it's wrong.
I completely agree that a child is not an object, but in that sense, it's actually better that women who, for whatever reason, make this decision, go via a clinic, what they've done, because a third party is involved, i.e. fertility clinic, they have an obligation to consider the welfare of the child. That is enshrined by law. So that means the question is asked whether the child will enjoy supportive parenting, so commitment to the health, well-being and development of the child. And that's already a lot more than women or people can do if they go in a bar and pick up something, or whatever way, shape or form families happen nowadays. So you would argue that the children are born this way, whilst for most people, and includes myself, that certainly wouldn't be my first choice of doing it that way. At the same time, the welfare of the child has been taken into consideration more so than almost in every other normal family.
Josephine Quintavalle?
I mean, you're doing here a medical intervention which is not necessary. There are risks associated with it. I don't know whether you've dealt with those, but the stimulation of the ovaries is not something that should be done lightly. I don't think we should use medical techniques for people who are actually not in any way could be considered as patients. A woman who doesn't wish to have sex, doesn't wish to have sexual intercourse, is certainly not, it cannot be considered a patient. But, I really want to underline, I think we want the role of fatherhood to be celebrated and underlined, and in this way it's been completely written out of the picture.
Difficult for you to argue against that, Laura Vitchins. It is effectively doing away with the idea of a dad.
It is, but that's not just the case with virgins. That's what's happening.
Well, it doesn't make it right. That seems to be your argument. It's happening anyway, or it's only happening in a small number, so what does it matter?
It doesn't, but I think what we need to consider here, there's a huge difference between single parenthood, and which is most cases motherhood.
But it can't be right. A woman has a baby who's never had sexual intercourse.
How would that differ from somebody who had a relationship once and bad sex, for instance? What makes it profoundly different that somebody has chosen to remain a virgin? I mean,
because
like
it's just weird.
Well, but, there are so many weird relationships going on at the moment.
Well, it doesn't mean we have to support them. It doesn't mean we have to increase them.
But if we're worried about children who are raised in single families, then surely looking at a 25 and 5 years is not the best way of addressing this. Reality is that the majority of children who grow up in single families is not because of a conscious choice by the mother, but it's because of broken relationships where the fathers, in many cases...
But at least they had sex. At least the woman had sex to get the baby.
I think what this discussion has highlighted, in fact, it's on the front page, is that people actually have a squeamishness about the fact that women can have children without having sex. Somehow the sexual element makes it different, whilst, again, if they had sex once and it was bad sex, then they're tackling on the virgin, but somehow that makes it okay.
No, it doesn't make it okay, but otherwise it's like a designer accessory in a way. Last word, Josephine Quindavalli, final comment from you on what you've heard.
Well, yes, I think what might happen by accident is one thing, but this is by design completely writing out the role of the male, both in the reproductive act itself, but also as an ongoing father. I think it definitely is not desirable.
Josephine Quintavalli, we heard from you. Thank you very much indeed. Director of Comment on Reproductive Ethics. And firstly, we heard from Laura Vitjens, who's the Chief Executive of the National Gamete Donation Trust.